That's my kind of filth. I love it. Joining me now in studio to discuss the new season of Dirty Jobs.
Well, there have been many that I've said, no, I'd rather not do that, but my only job on that show is to try, right? So if I did anything smart in this whole crazy...
For years, Mike Rowe, the no-nonsense host of Dirty Jobs, has been known as the everyman's hero, the guy who rolls up his sleeves and gets into the grit to show what real hard work looks like. But now, at 62, Rowe has come forward with some unexpected and emotional news that's leaving his fans stunned. Mike has always been the voice of honesty in a world full of filters and fakery. Whether he was crawling through sewers, climbing bridges, or working shoulder to shoulder with everyday Americans, he always reminded viewers that real heroes don't wear suits, they wear work boots. But recently, in a heartfelt message shared online, Rowe revealed something that struck a chord with millions. A personal truth about how Dirty Jobs changed him, and not always for the better. The man who inspired so many to take pride in hard work admitted that the years of filming dangerous, exhausting jobs came at a cost, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Fans were shocked to hear him speak so candidly about the toll it took on his health and outlook on life. People see the grit, he said, but they don't always see the exhaustion, the pain, the weight of carrying other people's stories for 20 years. Now, for the first time, Mike Rowe is breaking the silence about what really happened behind the scenes and why he's finally ready to slow down, reflect, and reveal the truth about the show that made him a legend. When Dirty Jobs first aired in 2003, it was unlike anything else on television. Hosted by Mike Rowe, the show celebrated the blue-collar workers who kept America running, the sewer inspectors, garbage collectors, miners, farmers, and countless others whose labor often went unnoticed. For 2 decades, Mike became the face of respect for the working class, known for his quick wit, humility, and willingness to dive into any filthy, back-breaking task. But behind the jokes and laughter was a truth few ever saw, one that Mike Rowe has only recently begun to share. In a recent candid interview, Mike admitted that Dirty Jobs took a heavier toll than most people realized. "I wasn't just visiting these job sites," he explained. "I was living them, breathing in the same air, carrying the same weight, feeling the same exhaustion. Each episode might have lasted an hour on screen, but filming often went on for days under brutal conditions. Whether it was sweltering heat, freezing temperatures, or the suffocating smell of waste, Mike endured it all." He revealed that the physical strain caught up to him over time. Decades of climbing, lifting, and working in extreme environments left him with chronic back pain and lingering injuries. "There were days when I couldn't move without wincing," he said. "But I always showed up, because I knew the people I was working with didn't have the option to quit." Beyond the physical exhaustion, Mike opened up about the emotional impact. Dirty Jobs wasn't just a show. It was a journey through America's overlooked corners, where he met people whose lives were defined by resilience and sacrifice. "I saw pride, but I also saw struggle," he said softly. "Families working 14-hour days just to get by. People with calloused hands and tired eyes who still managed to smile. That changes you." It's easy to forget that while viewers tuned in for entertainment, Mike carried those stories with him long after the cameras stopped rolling. Over time, the burden grew heavier. "You start realizing how disconnected the world has become," he said. "These people are invisible to most of society, and yet without them, nothing works." That truth haunted me. He also addressed the personal sacrifices. Filming on the road for months at a time meant missing birthdays, holidays, and moments with loved ones. "It was tough," he admitted. "My life became a series of airports, motels, and muddy boots. There wasn't much time to rest, much less reflect." Still, Mike never lost sight of why he did it. Dirty Jobs wasn't just about showing difficult work. It was about restoring dignity to it. He wanted Americans to see that there's no shame in hard labor, that every job, no matter how unpleasant, deserves respect. "That was always the mission," he said, "to remind people that honest work is noble work." But now, decades later, the man who built a career out of shining light on others' hard labor is taking a step back to shine a light on himself. His recent confession isn't one of regret, but of reality. I wouldn't trade a second of it, he said, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't change me. For fans, hearing Mike Rowe open up so honestly was both heartbreaking and inspiring. The man they admired for his toughness had revealed his humanity, and in doing so, reminded everyone why they loved him in the first place. As one fan wrote online, Mike Rowe made America proud of hard work again. And now, he's proving that even our strongest heroes sometimes need to rest. For nearly 2 decades, Mike Rowe was unstoppable. He climbed into sewers, hauled heavy machinery, shoveled sludge, and stood shoulder to shoulder with America's toughest workers. To the world, he was the picture of strength, a man who thrived in grit and chaos. But behind that rugged smile and signature humor, something was shifting. In a recent emotional appearance, Mike admitted that there came a point when the weight of dirty jobs, both physically and emotionally, became too much to carry. The long filming days, dangerous work, and constant travel had started to chip away at him in ways even he didn't fully understand. I was always the guy who said yes, Mike confessed. Yes to another shoot, another state, another 16-hour day. I didn't realize that every yes was taking a little more out of me. For years, he pushed through the pain. But one particular shoot nearly broke him. While filming a segment involving deep underground construction, Mike found himself trapped in a narrow, airless tunnel for nearly an hour after a minor collapse blocked their exit. He later described the moment as the first time he truly feared for his life. You try to stay calm, but when you're surrounded by dirt and silence, you start thinking about what really matters, he said. When he emerged from that tunnel, shaken but unharmed, Mike realized something had to change. That was my wake-up call, he recalled. I'd spent years honoring other people's work, but I'd forgotten to take care of my own life. That moment of clarity didn't come out of nowhere. Behind the scenes, Mike had been battling exhaustion, burnout, and the loneliness that comes from living life on the road. He admitted that while fans saw the smiles and humor on screen, there were nights when he'd return to his hotel room too tired to eat, let alone talk. People think Dirty Jobs was glamorous in its own way, he said. But most nights it was just me, a plate of cold food and a sore back. I loved the mission, but I lost balance. Then came the emotional toll. Spending years immersed in the stories of hardworking Americans made Mike deeply aware of the struggles many face daily: job insecurity, health issues, economic hardship. He felt responsible for representing them honestly. But that responsibility came with emotional weight. When you hear enough people tell you they're barely hanging on, he said, you start carrying some of that pain yourself. By 2023, Mike knew he needed to slow down. He wasn't quitting, but he was ready to step back and reevaluate what came next. I had to admit that I'm not invincible, he said. For years, I was trying to be everyone's voice. Now I'm learning to listen to my own. That decision shocked fans, but it also earned him even more respect. Social media flooded with messages of support, thanking him for his honesty and for giving dignity to the invisible workers of America. What many didn't know was that Mike had also been quietly dealing with health scares. Nothing life-threatening, but serious enough to make him reconsider his pace. Close friends encouraged him to take time off, focus on rest, and reconnect with life outside of the camera lens. Today, Mike calls that period his necessary pause. He's not walking away from Dirty Jobs forever, but he's finally giving himself permission to breathe. I'm proud of what we did, he said, but I'm also proud that I had the courage to stop, at least for a while. In a world that glorifies hustle and constant work, Mike Rowe's choice to step back might just be his most important lesson yet. Even the hardest workers need rest, and even the strongest voices deserve silence sometimes. When Mike Rowe quietly stepped back from the relentless grind of Dirty Jobs, fans feared it might mean retirement. But in true Mike Rowe fashion, he didn't disappear. He simply shifted gears. Instead of crawling through mud or climbing industrial towers, he began focusing on something that had always been at the heart of his career: helping everyday Americans find dignity and purpose in work. Today, Mike's mission looks different, but the passion is the same. He's traded in his work boots for microphones, mentorship programs, and advocacy. Through his foundation, Mike Rowe works, he continues to champion skilled labor, the electricians, welders, truck drivers, plumbers, and builders who keep the country running. The goal was never just to entertain people, Mike explained in a recent interview. It was to remind America that opportunity still exists. It just doesn't always come with a college degree. Founded back in 2008, Rowe Works offers scholarships and training for people entering the trades, helping them get the education and tools they need to start sustainable careers. But now, with more time to focus on it, Mike has expanded the program, partnering with community colleges and employers across the country. He often jokes that while he's not covered in dirt anymore, his mission is just as messy. Because changing how people think about work is harder than digging ditches. After years of being on the road, Mike now spends more time speaking to audiences, from high school students to CEOs, about the importance of hard work, humility, and personal responsibility. His talks are always laced with the same humor and realism that made him famous. But now there's a deeper tone of wisdom behind his words. We've spent a generation telling kids that success only comes with a 4-year degree, he said. Meanwhile, we've ignored millions of essential jobs that pay well, matter deeply, and build this country. I'm here to change that conversation. Fans have praised Mike's ability to evolve while staying true to his message. His podcast, The Way I Heard It, has also become a massive success, offering listeners bite-sized, thought-provoking stories about life, work, and character. It's less about hard labor now and more about life lessons, but it carries the same spirit that made Dirty Jobs so meaningful. But this new chapter isn't just about work. It's about balance. After years of grueling travel, Mike has finally made peace with slowing down. He spends more time outdoors, reading, and reconnecting with family and friends he once barely had time to see. I realized I didn't need to be in constant motion to make a difference, he said. Sometimes the most meaningful work happens when you're standing still. Even though he stepped back from the cameras, Mike still gets recognized everywhere he goes. Fans approach him to thank him for what Dirty Jobs meant to them or to share how his foundation helped them start a career. And every time, he listens with genuine gratitude. Those moments remind me why I did all of it, he said. Not for fame, but for the people who get up every morning and do what needs to be done. Mike Rowe may not be in the trenches anymore, but his legacy is deeper than ever. Through his voice, his foundation, and his unwavering respect for hard work, he continues to shape how America views labor, dignity, and success. In a world that often celebrates shortcuts, Mike Rowe stands as proof that real purpose is built with calloused hands, tired backs, and humble hearts, as he said recently, smiling that familiar, rugged smile. Dirty Jobs was never just a show, it was a love letter to hard work. And that love story isn't over. When Dirty Jobs first aired, no one expected it to become a cultural phenomenon. It was a simple idea. Shine a light on the everyday people who do the toughest, dirtiest, and most underappreciated work in America. But what Mike Rowe created went far beyond television. It became a movement, a mindset, and a wake-up call for a nation that had started to lose touch with the value of honest labor. For years, society glorified fame, comfort, and easy success. College brochures promised six-figure salaries and dream jobs, while trade work quietly faded into the background. Then along came Mike Rowe, standing knee-deep in sludge, sweating in factories, cleaning septic tanks, and saying what few dared to, "There's nothing shameful about hard work." That message resonated deeply. People across America, welders, truck drivers, ranchers, and garbage collectors, suddenly saw themselves represented with dignity. Kids who grew up watching Dirty Jobs began seeing trades not as less than, but as essential. Parents used the show to teach their children about humility, responsibility, and gratitude. Mike Rowe didn't just make Dirty Jobs cool, he made them respected. Over time, the ripple effect of the show reached far beyond Discovery Channel. Enrollment in trade schools began to climb. Companies reported that Dirty Jobs had inspired people to take pride in maintenance, sanitation, and skilled trades again. And through his foundation, Rowe Works, Mike turned that pride into action. helping thousands of students fund their training and step into meaningful careers. "We didn't start a TV show," Mike once said. "We started a conversation that America needed to have." That conversation continues today. In a world that's still recovering from economic struggles and labor shortages, Mike's message feels more relevant than ever. The pandemic only amplified it. When offices closed and remote work took over, it was the so-called dirty job workers who kept everything running. Truckers, farmers, utility workers, and sanitation crews. Suddenly, the people Mike had spent years celebrating were recognized as the true backbone of society. "We called them essential," Mike said, "but they've always been essential. We just forgot for a while." Even after stepping back from full-time TV, Mike continues to speak to the heart of working-class America. Through social media, podcasts, and public speaking, he keeps pushing the same powerful message, that work is not the enemy, and skill is not the same as education. His words have inspired not just workers, but leaders, teachers, and parents. And perhaps the most touching part of his legacy is the humility that still defines him. Despite his fame, Mike has never considered himself a celebrity. "I'm just a guy who had the good fortune to hold a camera on people who deserve to be seen," he once said. Fans continue to thank him for that, for giving visibility to the invisible, for proving that success doesn't come from prestige, but from purpose, and for reminding a distracted generation that dignity isn't found in comfort, it's found in contribution. Today, when people talk about dirty jobs, they're not just remembering a TV show. They're remembering a shift in perspective, one that redefined what it means to work hard and live honestly. As Mike Rowe himself said best, "The world will never run out of dirty jobs. And as long as there are people willing to do them with pride, there's hope for the rest of us." That's the legacy of Mike Rowe. Not fame, not fortune, but a movement that brought honor back to hard work. And though he's finally slowed down, one thing is certain. Mike Rowe's message will keep echoing through every workshop, farm, and factory for generations to come. A reminder that real heroes don't chase the spotlight. They build the world beneath it.